right, I'm going to call to order the Public Works Committee for Tuesday, June 6, 2023. The time is now 9 o'clock. Can I get a roll call, please?
Chair Garcia,
Here.
Vice Chair Ozak.
Here.
Member Cahill, Member Desart,
Here.
Member Glassy, Member Zay.
Here.
Okay, I'm going to keep no remarks today because we have a very full agenda. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes, 23/19/48 Public Works Committee meeting.
So moved.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to take over. Is there any public comment for today? No, okay, sorry. Now going back, can I get a motion to approve the minutes for Public Works regular meeting of Tuesday, 16/2023? Got a motion, a second, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, claims report. I'm looking for a motion to approve 23/19/52
So moved.
payment of claims, Public Works and
Second.
Facilities Management. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, going into consent items, most looking for a motion to approve 23/19/49 FH Passion SN
So moved.
Nielsen and Associate LLC 46180001 SCRV decrease in closed bid. A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Then a motion to approve 23/19/50 Gray Bar Electric Company Inc. 51160001 SCRV decrease in close. So moved. Motion?
Second.
Seconds. Motion is second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion to approve 23/19/51 Helm Mechanical Inc. Contract extension to December 31st,
Second.
2023 is necessary to complete the JLB HVAC replacement project. No change in contract total. Got a motion a second. Any discussion? Member Sarah?
Yeah, can I get an update, Nick, on the HVAC throughout the campus? Because it seems like we're approving HVAC
And,
a lot.
Yeah, we
often.
are.
Almost done now with every single building.
and
on
so
campus?
it's actually good timing. So you have two items on this agenda for mechanical HVAC, the air top units over in the care center. We were very fortunate to secure CDBG funding, and that's what you see. That's where you see the extra later on. So we've added the other units. The biggest one, care center is obviously a big lift to get that one done. We're fortunate enough to find the funding. The biggest remaining is right here, this building, 421. And actually, Tim and I just had the discussion last week on that. He's getting an estimate on that, and we were looking. They are original to this building here, which is amazing. The fact, I mean, this building was built, it's 40 years old.
Yeah.
And so they're original. So this is probably, besides,
About $5.3 million. I'm giving away the July presentation.
yeah,
Yeah, we just got the estimate last week. We will tap the remaining facilities ARPA money. And then we have infrastructure dollars, and it'll be also part of the FY24 capital.
And will between the ARPA and the infrastructure dollars, will that be in the
We are short.
We're really close.
Oh, we're short.
Yeah, we're a little bit short, and we're going to be presenting to this committee in July, that exact thing for the air handling units for this building. So you beat us to the punch a little bit, so we stole our thunder. But
Sorry.
yeah, we've been very, very fortunate with the ARPA money, with the CARES Act, being able to replace a lot of the air handling units across all of our buildings. We've been extremely fortunate. So we are in great shape. This will take care of the care center. And then we're talking 421 then, and then we're in good shape.
Well, this is the jail, this item.
The care center is coming up.
Right.
If you look
Right.
on 9A, that's the big one, the care center.
Thank you.
Rosa, or Vice Chair, actually.
Please.
Yes.
If this equipment is original and 40 years old, I think we have to have a shout out to staff to keep
Yeah.
this going.
No.
I
That
agree.
is insane. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. And you've also just reminded me of my 35-year-old furnace in my.
I know.
I was just thinking that myself. How old am I?
Talk nice about it.
I bring it up once a year and my husband goes, it's working. I'm like, okay, well.
It's working until it's not working.
Right, yeah.
Right, and there's no maintenance staff in that house, let me tell you. But thank you, really, that's amazing. That's fantastic.
Did they have air conditioning 40 years ago?
Yes, we have air conditioning. That's why we have the
Okay,
furnace.
any other discussion other than that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Looking to work, going into bid awards, FMP 006923, recommendation for the approval of the contract to Commercial Mechanical Inc. for the replacement of air handling units S1 and S2 in room G15, S6 and penthouse A and S8 and penthouse B at the Care Center for Facilities Management for the period of June 13, 2023 through November 30, 2024 for a total contract amount not to exceed $3,250,500. Got a motion and a second. I think we kind of discussed this just 2 minutes ago, so I
Yeah.
think we're good.
This is one of
So,
the two.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed. Okay. Moving on to AP 23-1953, I'm looking for a motion to approve recommendation for the approval of a contract to Suburban Laboratories for
So moved.
sewage treatment plant pollutant analysis for the Woodridge, Green Valley, and Knollwood wastewater treatment plants for Public Works for the period of June 6, 2023 to June 5th, 2024, for a total contract not to exceed $19,213. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion to approve a contract increase of FMCO 007123, a First Amendment to Resolution FMP 026922, issued to Lamp Incorporated to provide professional construction management manager as advisor services for various construction management services to add to the following capital projects to the scope of work: HVAC replacement work to completed at the Care Center for Air Handler Units S1 mechanical room,
So moved.
S2 mechanical room,
Second.
3213, S4 mechanical room, G16C at the Care Center to improve and to improve the security, building code upgrades and ADA improvements in the county boardroom at JTK building, and to increase the contract in the amount of $1,229,246,000, taking the original contract amount of $4,865,131 and resulting in a new amended contract total amount not to exceed $6,094,377, an increase of 25.27%. Partial ARPA item. We've got a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion to approve FMCO 006923, amendment to resolution FMP 012220,
So moved.
issued to Weatherproofing Technologies Inc. to provide annual campus roof inspections, maintenance, and minor repairs as needed for facilities management for a change order to extend the contract to March 31st, 2024, and increase the contract in the amount of $35,000, resulting in a new total contract amount not to exceed $296,525.87, an increase 13.38%. We've got a motion and a second, I believe. We had discussion, members A.
Yeah, this is the same firm we used before, right?
This is the same one we did before.
We can trust we'll have the rat out in front again.
So no, this is, they have promised us that everything, and the reason why we're doing this is Omnia, which is cooperative purchasing, they will be bidding out. This then aligns it with when we go out again, or when they go out. But they do have an entire wing that is union, and they will only use union here on our campus.
Thank you.
Good to go. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we got a motion to approve sole source item 23-1954, recommendation for the approval of a contract to JWC Environmental Inc. to furnish and deliver one Muffin Monster grinder. And I will explain that in a minute, or Nick will, for facilities management for the
There's always
period of June
chuckles
7th,
whenever that one comes
2023
out.
through November 30, 2023, for a total contract amount of $17,744.06 per 5.
So moved.
She can't even,
Okay. We've
So-
got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. A little discussion on maybe what a Muffin
Muffin
Monster
Monster,
is,
so-
because I had to ask that.
so over in the jail, we have two Muffin Monsters.
The other one's a
Basically,
different branding, but we have.
basically the same thing. So what they do is, if you think about it, especially in a jail, anything under the sun can be flushed down toilets, anything. And we've seen everything. And what this does is it grinds everything up that's flushed down so it doesn't clog our pipes. Because if it gets further into the system, Now you're ripping up floors and you're doing that. So this protects our system. I mean, we have these actually in Public Works, we have them, but in jails, you have them all over the place. So it's a very important part, but it is a pretty cool name, I have to say.
It's a funny name. It just is. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion to approve action item 23-1955, recommendation for the approval of a contract to the city of Wheaton to provide fire alarm monitoring services to the county
Second.
campus for facilities management for the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024 for a contract total not to exceed $21,420. Been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to informational. Looking for a motion to approve SLCO 000923 change order to county contract 56730001 SERB issued to Acela Inc. for a contract increase of $42,241.52 for 4 additional licenses for stormwater management for a 2-year period extension of license subscription services for Public Works 1 and Building Zoning 3 for a 2-year period, resulting in amended contract total of $965,509.79, an increase of 4.58%. Motion,
Second.
seconds, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Moving into discussion, this is great news for our county, I believe. We're looking into the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant. We're gonna have, who's going to be
So
doing that one?
Tim
Okay.
will do it as we load up the thing, but I'll kind of kick it off a little bit.
Thanks, Tim.
Very excited. Facilities was able to secure almost a $500,000 grant. Tim's going to go through it. There are some choices that this committee has for how we spend the money. And Tim will go through different
Being in the
options.
presentation, but I really want to stress is that this money has a wide range of things you can do. Staff is going to get the discussion going, and then you can give us guidance. My thought is that we presented to you today when we do the full capital next month. You can get your thoughts together and give us better guidance. You can go all solar, all EV, wherever you want to go. There's a wide range of things. So Ian Johnson's going to give the presentation. You can see Lisa Shabaka's here. There's a piece of this that it may fill it in very well with working it if that's the desire of the committee.
Yeah, and if you want to go to the first slide. So the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program, it was just a direct allocation of funding to all the counties across the US. They had various criteria to award certain amounts of money to each county. We got about $500,000. As you can imagine, this $500,000 is meant to go towards energy efficiency and conservation projects. There was a few different criteria that they wanted in these projects. For example, they wanted an environmental justice component. They really wanted us to try braiding that funding with other federal funding incentives. And also setting up some kind of sustainable environmental fund in the long run as well, like a revolving door fund was another criteria. So some topics that they suggested were energy planning, energy efficiency, renewables, transportation, sustainable financing solutions, workforce development, those types of ideas. So staff, we've been going for a couple months now trying to think of some really good projects that we think would fit this bill here. And we came up with 4, I think, really good ones that we would suggest. So the first one would be workforce gap analysis, and that's with Lisa Shavak. We give them about $100,000 of the funding. And that would be to get a workforce gap analysis in DuPage County and then set up the proper means to train that workforce. We'd also, as I presented just a couple weeks ago, we have our electric vehicle readiness plan. And we would use about $50,000 for putting those stations in over at 505 and get that ball rolling. We also have some really good energy projects that we can get done on campus. A big one is the tunnel lights down our basement. So as I'm sure y'all are aware, we do have a tunnel system that goes around campus that delivers hot and cool water to our different buildings. And we have lights down there, and those lights are on pretty much all the time. So replacing those with occupancy lights would save us about $7,000 in electricity each year. We'd have about a 13-year return on investment. And I like to put it that these lights would last us well beyond all of us being alive, okay? So these things would be still running while we're all on the ground. And then finally, solar panels would be a final, like a really good revolving door fund potential. That would help flesh out our entire 421 solar system. As you all are aware, we're kind of getting the ball rolling on the current system, and this would help continue that project.
Okay, go ahead, Member Start, then I've got a couple comments.
So, my first question is the EV charging stations. I'm recalling from a previous meeting or conversation that $50,000 would be like one.
It depends if you have the double or the single.
Right.
This, I mean, we still want to move forward with the other ones as well, but this will as another funding source for doing that. So
I
we're
understand. So
absolutely,
this is
yeah.
like one.
This is like one, I think.
And my second question is, and maybe this is for Lisa, I don't know what Lisa is. but-
Lisa's online.
Oh, Lisa's online. What exactly is workforce gap analysis, Lisa?
So, good morning, everybody. The presentation that we received on this particular block grant, they gave some samples, and I'd be happy to share some of those with you now if that would be helpful for you to see what some other states have done in this arena. But essentially, there's a lot of funding right now being put towards clean energy jobs and all of that. And by my estimation, it's almost a little bit, at least for DuPage County, of putting the cart before the horse, proverbially speaking, because we don't necessarily have a really clear picture of what our clean energy workforce consists of in DuPage, what training options are there, what jobs are actually there. Are we going to train 100 people for jobs that as solar panel installers that aren't actually available in DuPage County? So this type of study is very comprehensive. It's typically done by an outside consultant. They gather all of that data, all of that information to find out things such as what's your current workforce picture like in DuPage County? Where are the gaps? Moving forward, say 5 to 10 years from now, where are the big retirement waves going to hit hardest in things like manufacturing, utilities, the trades, so that you're preparing your workforce for clean energy jobs as they evolve. And then also looking at things like what training programs are currently available and where gaps are there, so that partners like College of DuPage or others can design programming around that. And then there would be a component to this that would also entail doing things like putting, maybe paying for people to go through training, which we could leverage some of WIOA funding for, obviously. And then in addition, we had talked about in kind of a mid to longer term goal, maybe even having work-based learning, using the county as sort of a host employer location where we pay for wages for people to do kind of like internships. Say you're installing that charging station, somebody who's been in a program like that could maybe help out as like an internship. So there's a lot of different ways that this can look, but in my estimation, we can't prudently take a lot of these actions until we know what the landscape actually looks like. So essentially the report would be giving us that clear picture of what our workforce is, what the employment picture is, and then where the gaps lie there.
Thank you. So a follow-up question. It seems like throwing $100,000 on that's a lot of money on a study, and that's like a quarter of this grant. Aren't there other entities in the county who have done this work before? COD, Choose DuPage. Haven't we done, aren't there studies out there already?
I would
I would
defer
love
to
to.
Lisa if there are studies like this.
$100,000 to employ people, not in a study,
Right.
To clarify, Member Dessart, I don't anticipate that the cost of the actual study would be anywhere near $100,000. A lot of those funds that I think Joy and Ian were picturing would kind of support programming that would take place after the study was completed. I would estimate from other studies that we've done as a workforce development region, like for example, our regional plan for our economic development region, I think it costs like $20,000 or somewhere in the ballpark of that. And for a county specific study, it could be even less because there's less data to compile. To your question about if a study like this has been done, I would argue that perhaps should have been done. You guys might have heard of the SAGA legislation that DCEO has currently, the Climate Equitable Jobs Act. There's a lot of money coming down the pike for that. And the statewide kind of did some research, but it wasn't as thorough as perhaps I would have liked to have seen. And it certainly wasn't DuPage County specific. To my knowledge, neither the college nor Choose DuPage has conducted a study along these lines. So it certainly would be helping them as well. And as part of Choose DuPage's strategic planning committee for business attraction and retention efforts going forward, if this is an area that the county would like to start really trying to pull in more of these clean energy type employers and jobs, you obviously need the workforce to support that. So kind of knowing what we're dealing with and where the baseline is would be, I think, pretty effective, but certainly would not cost anywhere near $100,000.
Okay, and Lisa, that's a question, and I'll get you in a sec. That was a question I had also with this, because I studies for that amount of money seemed a lot of like a lot. But I'm very interested in the training of people, so that, like, for instance, we get people trained. We can't get electric fleet here at the county because we don't have the workforce to actually maintain them, from what I'm hearing. So we would need to get like people here who can maintain them, correct me if I'm wrong. But so that's something that I'd be interested in, the solar panels thing, electrical vehicle things.
Yes.
Are you thinking that with the 100,000, just so that I'm clear on this, that you would use maybe like 25,000 for like the survey, and then the 75,000 would be used for training? I just want to be clear on what this is doing. So I want to make sure we're using this the best way we can.
Precisely that, almost close to what my initial take, obviously without kind of putting out a request for proposals and, you know, having a budget range on that, but I would estimate 25,000 would be quite fair. It might even not be that much to get a consultant to do this study. And then the remainder would be towards actual workforce development, if you will. So to your point, as an example, if the county incumbent staff need to go through some sort of training course in order to know how to maintain electric vehicles of whatever variety the county ultimately ends up with, that could be paid for through these dollars. Arguably, I believe that that's an allowable cost. Any kind of actual hands-on training of staff would be an allowable cost for this, certainly.
Yes, thank you. I agree with Member Dessart. I right away when I thought workforce gap analysis, I'm thinking consultant fee, $100,000. No.
Yeah.
I would like to see you break it down then when it goes forward. I don't want to see it under workforce gap analysis. I want to see workforce gap analysis, 25,000, workforce development, 75%, you know, 75,000. So we really have a limit there, and we know exactly what we're going to pay for this consultant fee, and that's the top number. Okay, thank you.
I was just kind of, you asked my question. I just wanted to know exactly, like, if the survey or the analysis was going to be 20,000, 25,000, then the remainder would be able to be spent towards workforce development, and you answered that. So that is encouraging.
So I think that's the consensus I'm hearing from this board, that's how we'd like to see that amount of money be used, I think.
Can we go back to the items on the list, please?
That's exactly what we want. We wanted your direction so that we can crank this down and bring it back to
Now I
you.
can see.
We need to commit by the end of the calendar year to the feds, so we have adequate time, and we can continue to fine tune this with the direction that you provide for us.
And you've given me hope with the electric vehicle charging stations that yes, this may just be doing one, but we're going to do more.
And that's all of these presentations we're doing, including the next one, which we may run out of time. We're trying to get your input so we can develop our capital budget moving forward. So these are the type of discussions that we want to hear so that we can tailor our capital program moving forward for 24 and beyond. But
I love the tunnel lights and the solar panels.
and I'll tell you, the tunnel lights we've replaced almost every light in this entire campus except for the tunnel lights. So this will be a nice change, and then the panels will be an add-on for what we've done. So if this is acceptable, at 25, 75 for the workforce gap, training and analysis, as well as the other ones, if it looks acceptable to the committee, we can program it in.
How about, can we get a consensus on this so we can go to our next presentation? And then if you have any other questions, you can ask us. Is that
We will
everybody
bring this back in a
consensus?
We're gonna
month.
bring it back in a month. 'cause
We're gonna bring it back with capital so that we
I'd rather have
don't.
a
many
couple-
more-
I'd rather have another charging station than
Sure,
solar.
and that's
because we're gonna
exactly,
Use that, I think, a lot quicker than.
Okay, so, okay, bring back your questions, members A, and then we'll discuss a little bit more next month.
we will forward this to the committee as well, this presentation, so you have
Perfect.
these numbers, yep.
Perfect. Member Glass, you were quick?
Just really quick, I think that all these are very important, but I think unless we have the proper workforce to maintain and, be able to service the fleet, like, is there a way to get, if the analysis that we do that costs us 20,000 says, ideally we'd have much more than 75,000 to train a workforce to help with some of these environmental initiatives, is there a way to get more funding for that?
I'm sure there is more funding
You
to
would-
be had.
you
Because this
would-
is just for now that we're getting this.
Yeah, this
correct?
is, we've got some time. As Tim said, you have till the end of the year. So we can figure out which direction, but ultimately it's your money to figure out how to assign it.
And I don't know if I emphasize this enough, we are trying to focus on braiding this funding with other funding opportunities so that we can get kind of a snowball effect that once this picks up pace, it'll get nice and big.
We're happy Ian's here.
So
Okay.
you have my vote.
All right, so we're gonna talk about this to be brought back next week. So let's move into our next presentation, sidewalks presentation, and we're gonna have Eric here.
So very quickly, the one aspect we're looking at, obviously all of the maintenance, everything across the campus. The sidewalks are kind of one of the last remaining things we're looking at. And we do have some liability issues that we need to deal with. These especially in the courtyard area, those are original from when it was built in the early 2000s, and there is a lot of settling. So I know we don't have much time and we can come back. So Eric, please proceed.
I'll be very brief. I'll try to keep this accelerated. So I'm Eric Melchers with Hampton, Lindsay, and Renwick. We were tasked with the campus-wide sidewalk evaluation. Go to the next slide. And so it was myself, Randy here with HLR. We also worked with a landscape architect and the wonderful staff here at DuPage County. Next slide. So we approached this project. We are looking at things like cracks, joint raveling. We're looking at trip hazards. We're looking at accessibility. We're looking at all of the sidewalks on campus and evaluating what needs to be replaced now, what could last, and what's acceptable. Next slide. And so we categorized everything into a couple different categories. That first category of what do we recommend being replaced right now? There's also the category of maybe this isn't compliant, but the condition would last 10 plus years. And then there's sidewalk that is also acceptable and we think would last a long time. So next slide. Just getting into the results, the main number I want to emphasize is this top one. 63% of all the sidewalk that we evaluated had some form of deficiency that we think should be addressed.
I'm going for a walk this afternoon.
And so we have all the areas broke down here, but I want to keep moving forward, so you can go to the next slide.
Make sure you come to the camera.
Here's a few visuals of what we categorized. You can see the courtyard especially, there is a decent amount of red. Next slide.
And I will say the courtyard is our biggest concern for everything on the campus. If you go out there, what we have, the settlement is pretty massive in the courtyard.
We have the southeast corner of campus, and if you keep going to the next slide, we have the west campus. So we don't have to get into all the details here, but you can go to the next slide. So looking at some of the costs, if you want to take the entire campus and address all of the deficiencies, our cost estimate came out to $3.11 million. If we're going to only look at those red areas, the ones that we think need to be addressed, there's deficiencies, and it really should be done now if you're going to do it, that's a number of $2.44 million. Next slide. And so, as mentioned, the campus courtyard is an area that we really wanted to focus on because it's not in great condition. There are a decent amount of deficiencies. In fact, over 71% of the sidewalk that was evaluated had some form of deficiency. Of the remaining percent, there's also an additional area that we would call functionally obsolete, where pedestrians don't necessarily use these pathways. And if you're going to want it to be a walkable, usable area, there's some other ways that we can address it. Next slide. And so looking at the courtyard, cost-wise, if we want to just do maintenance, take all the squares that are non-compliant, replace them, as well as all the brick pavers, because those have settled. There's maintenance issues that come with the brick pavers. We're looking at $1.78 million. This would result in a patchwork of a lot of new and old concrete. You're gonna have the old stuff that eventually will fail as well down the road. As I mentioned, the paver brick is something that we don't think is going to last long, so that would be replaced. And if we were to pursue the maintenance option, that does not address the functionally obsolete pathways. So you can go to the next slide. So we have some additional projects that we looked into for consideration. And I know time is short, but we have the complete renovation option with our landscape architect. We designed this concept. You can take a closer look here if you'd like. There's a lot to get into here. I'm not going to get into the details, but we did take a close look, and you can go to the next slide. With the complete renovation option, we're looking at $2.89 million. Compared to just the maintenance of the courtyard, it's a difference of $1.11 million additional dollars to do the renovation. Next slide. And what comes with the complete renovation is it removes the liabilities of all the deficiencies. You also promote campus walkability. You create a natural setting for employees, benches, picnic tables, pathways. It would also reduce the impervious area of the courtyard by over 25%. Next slide. So I'm going to invite Tim to address a few more projects here.
The last one, there's 6 items on here that over the last 10 years have come to our attention that we want to bring to you. First one is one of the 2 main exits to the auditorium. It leads to a steep slope down. The desire that we could put in a landing there and actually a stair to get it, that would be about $60,000. One member initiative was in putting in an employee lake area somewhere in this area for the 421 folks. We've estimated that to be $35,000. Again, I'm going to go through these quickly. In July, we'll present them to you again. If there's items you want us to proceed with, we will. If not, that's okay. We can look at it another time. Next slide. We do not have a rain garden on campus. Right outside the 421 area right here. When we did the parking lot, we put in the subsurface drainage for a rain garden to go. If there's a desire for a rain garden on campus, this was the spot we've identified. Next slide. We've had several requests outside of the 505 building, right in this general area for an employee area looking out over the pond. It was also suggested for things like weddings, for photo opportunity. It'd be a nice area for people to go to if there's a desire of the committee to pursue that. Next slide. There's 2 left. This one is outside of animal services along the creek. This would be an area for both pedestrians and actually for dog walkers to go. This would be a limestone trail system, particularly for the animals when you go into this kind of a peaceful area to go. We do get a lot of walkers on campus that you see a lot. I do believe this might get a lot of use and function there. And then the last slide, this is another one we've been asked about, the Veterans Memorial. When we clean it up, it looks like this. Over about 3 to 4 years, it fades out into this. We clean it about every 4 years. Working with HLRB, about $81,000, we can get a permanent fix. Will it look like this for a long period of time?
So you will save money.
Correct. Yeah, that one, that's a money saver on there. We try and address that one from time to time. So last slide. This is the total budget for all these activities. These are all the ones that just went through here, and then the other functions there. We just wanted to present this to you today. I will also send you this PowerPoint presentation. And then it's our desire to kind of dive into this a little more deeper in a month. We didn't want to present it to you and say, what say you in one meeting?
So, may I speak?
Yes.
So thank you for that. I'm conservative. This is too much money. I would like to see a basic repair of the necessary repairs for the sidewalk that make it safe for the employees and the people who visit the campus. That's it.
Sure, we have that.
So I'd like to see that without the bells and whistles and all the fancy stuff. I don't think it's important to be taking care of ourselves so much with the taxpayer dollar. I think there's other things out there. I want to keep it safe and keep it good for the people, but I don't want to see any more than that.
Sure.
I think that was in the beginning of the presentation.
Yeah,
So
I
you can
saw
take a
it,
look.
but I, you know, we started at that at 63% efficient, but then it just went way up. So I'd like to just see that analysis a little more detailed.
Sure.
And environmentally, what I know Sheila's going to say, what makes it more environmental too.
Not what I was going to say, but that's
Oh,
okay. May I?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Thank you. I'm not on this committee, but I don't like the idea of spending just the amount to fix things. I think the obsolescence is something that we have an opportunity to address. And I think that will save us money down the road if we make those expenditures now. So I would be in favor of, again, you're kind of throwing a lot out at us this month. I would like to think about it, but my general opinion is do it right the first time. We'll save you money down the road. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
And then, okay, go ahead, Member Say.
I just saw we're taking the pavers out. Did we look at doing the whole thing with pavers for water quality issues or no?
The issue with favors is twofold. One is the salt. It's difficult to get the melt that we want with them. We get a better melt of concrete. The other one is that the soils we have here, we're downstream of the marsh, we have poor soils. We have found that they don't like holding up in that area very well.
And the other thing was, I mean, it said landscape was almost $1 million.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go back to that one slide.
That's a lot.
Yeah, there are a lot of, and what we wanted to do, the purpose of this was not to say, hey, this is what staff recommends. The purpose of this was to give you everything that we have heard about, everything we've looked at. As we start figuring out our capital needs, go back a little bit more. There are, that one right there is what you're looking at. So the cost for, obviously just the maintenance cost is 1.78. That's just to repair what's deficient. I would recommend over the next month and a half. I mean, if you haven't walked in the courtyard recently, take a walk around it because there's a lot of issues that we have to resolve and there is a big liability, but there is some choices.
Yeah.
Do we want to?
63% chance of tripping and falling.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So.
That's fine.
You stay inside, please.
1.78 versus 4.7 is a big difference. $3 million.
And I'm not gonna disagree with you, Member Cahill. I just feel that this is the time we need to start looking into the future. We've got permeable paver, which is part of that. We've got a rain garden, which is part of that. We're looking into the future in terms of making the area around here, and we have a lot of visitors, it's just, and the staff that's here. And we wanna make it that it's a place that they feel safe and that they have places that they can go sit.
And that gazebo thing was my idea with Nick. I mean, we really don't have a place for our employees to go out and sit anywhere. If they want to have lunch outside or do anything. We just have that area next to the parking garage. I thought would be nice we see some employees sitting on picnic benches over here by the auditorium. It's kind of nice to give them a little bit of area if they wanted to get away just for a little bit.
Yeah, so I would just send the thing, because there's a lot of information written on there. And so I think you can review it, you can take a look at it, and then we'll talk about it next time.
What's that?
You have this in the budget?
This is, so everybody knows where we sit with the budget. So when we came to last year, at the end of last year, the parking decks are a big one. And between parking decks and stormwater and sidewalks, we're still, I would say, I think the county board gave us 10 million of that. And so at that point, we said about 20 million, but I think with everything all in the stormwater, another 10 million is what we thought, 10 to 12 million.
Right.
So, but we knew we were short.
Stormwater on the campus, not giving it to the.
Stormwater on campus. And I will say the stormwater on campus, if anybody wants to, we have the construction going on. Earthworks is enlarging our basin over there as we speak. So if anybody goes to that end of the campus, you'll see he's moving very quickly.
Yes, so review and we'll rediscuss it. I understand my first question, I think Tim, was where's the money coming from? So we need to have some discussion on that. There is some money, as you said, in the one fund that we gave them up to 10 million. So let's see how we can figure this out. Thank you so much for the presentation. I really appreciate it. Is there any old business? Any new business? Okay, I move to adjourn.